beginning and pop the intro in later, and you can move
well-
it to the front.
Well, what's cool is that what I watch a lot of podcasts is that they'll talk in the beginning. Like, all right, so there's Impulsive. They talk for about 5 minutes in the beginning. They banter, they call it. And then they start their intro or introduce the guest, whoever it is. I guess it all depends on the energy. What's the energy? I think the energy is high today. So, yeah, let's get to the intro.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to Spotlight, where we dive into our minds and dive deeper into the things that we are interested in.
And we hope you're interested too.
Boom. With my co-host here, Love, Lucivia, Luvicia, I'll get there, and myself, Dan, D-Had. I hope everybody's doing well today. If you could please go like, share, and subscribe this podcast, and really listen to what we got to say, because I think everything we got to say is important. I'm not trying to blow smoke up my own butt, but here we are.
And yet you're doing it.
And I keep doing it. No, we just like to have fun, and we just like to be ourselves. And one of the first times we sat down, it still sticks with me, is that I just want this to be authentic. Well, that's what you said.
Yeah.
You said you want this to be authentic, and that's what we're doing. It's cool because now that we're on our fourth episode sitting down, I've talked to a few people, and I've told them, yep, I still come and we just record. It might not be anything, but they're interested. So people are interested. There's a fly. Yeah. So how are you doing? We skipped last week.
Yes,
if anybody wants to know, we skipped last week. So we kind of had a good 2 weeks or a week of just kind of going about our days.
Yeah. In the past week, I started a 5-day microbiome reset, and that has been going really well. I definitely feel the brain fog clearing. What about you? What have you been up to?
Well, first off, I noticed the energy when I walked through the door today. You were very, very uppity, in a good way. I don't know how else to word that.
Present.
Yeah, you're very aware. I could tell you're. It's like. It looks like you did a line of coke. I'll be honest.
Would you believe that I only got an hour and a half of sleep last night?
That's nuts. So it sounds like you're sleep deprived, you're going crazy, and you feel really good.
Yeah.
So it's worth the fast.
100%.
I'm doing well. I think I had just it's just the ebb and flow of life, and for me, I have a lot of different problems than other people. You have different problems than other people. I've just been having some...
I like to call them challenges.
Yeah, challenges with just... look, I'll be honest. A lot of it stems from finances. That's where a lot of my issues come from. And I think... But the whole idea, I think, about finances and money is shifting your mind to looking... my current situation is, I don't have much money right now to my name. I'm in a little bit of debt. A lot worse than other people, really. And it gets to me every once in a while, but it's not like I'm not doing anything about it. I'm continuing to be creative. I'm continuing to do, to just work on my music. I'm just continuing to get up every day, brush my teeth, sometimes make my bed, and that's one of the little things that works. And I think that's what we want to talk about today.
Yeah.
Is how do you refocus yourself?
Yes. All right. So, refocusing and shifting focus has been probably the biggest work that I've been working on for the last 9 months. That's the main thing. That's the whole purpose of why I got into LLT, which is Limitless Life Tribe with Dr. Chris and Lucas Root.
I hope to meet them one day.
I hope to meet them in person one day. They're phenomenal people.
I heard they're lit people.
Yes.
They like to be lit with knowledge. Where I'm not talking about getting drunk or anything. I'm talking about lit.
I mean, They're human.
They know what they know, and they're successful, and that's a cool thing to be a part of. It's cool to be
Yes.
around. Like, do you find yourself asking? Do you find you asking yourself, "Oh, like maybe I am doing the right thing because of the people I've surrounded myself with"?
Oh, 100%. I know that that's why I'm doing well.
Like it's funny because you've told me a little bit about these people in your life, and you know they're successful business owners, big business owners, let's say.
Yes.
And you know they went to school for this and went to school for that, and you know, without shitting on you, but like also like I feel like I'm in the same boat as you, where like we're maybe not as successful as them, but yet they're in our lives and they're succeeding. And so it's like if you want to succeed, surround yourself with people who are succeeding.
100%. One of the first lessons that I learned from them is that not everybody's opinion matters, but we can't get to this point where we say nobody's opinion matters, because we're lying to ourselves. Our subconscious doesn't believe that when we say that. So in that moment, we get to choose whose opinion matters.
Well, it's so funny. We were having a similar conversation last night with my call them my Discord friends. They're my friends in real life, but you know, pretty much every night we're on the computer on Discord talking to each other, and we got into like it wasn't a debate. It could be considered a debate, but we like talked about, like, we gave our opinions on certain subjects. Like we talked about socialism. That was one of the things we talked about. And so it's so funny how conversations correlate throughout. Like, we didn't intend to talk about what we're talking about now. I think what really is working for us is that we see each
surfing
other.
the flow.
Right.
We're in the vortex.
We're up and down. We're going through the roller coaster. We're doing the backflips. We're doing the front flips. And it's just interesting that, like, I didn't talk to you about what we talked about last night, but you brought up something so similar to what I was talking about last night. So that's what.
So
this
what did you
podcast
take away from that conversation?
Well, I was really tired last night, and I just was kind of jaded from listening to them go back and forth. But I think I would say, if now that I think about it, I don't know.
Would you consider them part of that group for you, of people whose opinions matter to you?
Yeah. It's. I'm not gonna say it. I don't want to call him out. I don't want to call my one.
How
friend.
has consciously choosing those people's opinions to matter in your life, changed your life?
So I think this goes to. I don't know how to explain it. I feel like I gotta
Let
go
me
like in
rephrase
so
my
many
question
different
then.
directions.
How has it affected the way you view yourself?
Well, I guess I feel like I view myself as like I matter now, because so like I have old friends who, I guess they're still my friends. I don't know, but like we kind of had a falling out, and I kind of just walked away from them. I kind of just stopped talking to them, and we live close by. We live near each other, less than 20 minutes away each direction, and I'll give you a quick scenario. My one buddy, his girlfriend reached out, asked to go to Six Flags. I said, I don't know, I got to talk to Kaylee, and then we just decide we don't want to. No reason, and I don't think there has to be a reason.
No.
And then once I said that, my other friend, 5-10 minutes later, texts me, "You're a whole pussy." And that there summed up what my friendship with those guys are. Or let's say the guys I used to run with all the time back, you know, growing up playing hockey in the neighborhood, getting in trouble, doing drugs for the first time. You know, it was like it was those friends.
Yeah.
And like, you know, they all grew up and we're all successful in our own way. my one buddy became a doctor. The other one went to school and got a CDL. You know, I'm successful in my creative ventures. It depends on how you want to define success when it comes to how successful is successful. And so ever since that, I am now friends with my friends I used to be friends with before racing dirt bikes. Before, or it was like they're my video game friends. That's what I really call them. Like they're my video game friends. I remember getting home after school and like throwing my book bag on the bed and just running back down to go run out the door and go to my one friend's house. We all played Rock Band together and we played video games together. And which I just found out recently that like I started that trend. Like I had the Guitar Hero, and he just said the other day, like, you know, you're the one that like really. It's cool. It's cool to find.
Side note: I feel like gaming
memories.
has such great potential to create tribes of authentic communication in
Right,
ways
right.
that previous technology just hadn't offered, and I
So-
think it's amazing.
So I have a problem with. God, it can go so many different directions. To piggyback off that, my one friend, he's not too social, but he made a bunch of friends. World of Warcraft. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Oh yeah,
Huge game back in the day, especially. But they made a lot of friends, and there's been a few who've stuck around. There's this one guy who stuck around, and he's just like, I think he lives in Florida, but like they've never met. And like he comes into the chat room every once in a while, and like it's just like we're honest, just good friends. We're not judging each other for anything. We might get into little arguments because of maybe a video game, but like it's cool to be able to do that. And to bring that back around again, the guys I'm recording music with, the rappers, I grew up with the kid, and he just told me today. He's like, you were one of my first friends when I moved to Burlington, where I used to live. And I'm like, I don't remember that. But then he brought up a memory of us being in class and like this teacher we used to had, and I've always hung with the bad kids, and I never did anything bad. I just always hung with them.
I think bad kids were labeled bad because they were authentic and they bucked against a system that required them to conform.
That and then when you try to reprimand those types of kids, it tends to get worse. At least that's what history looks like. And I think that's what, now that I think about it, it really makes me think about the like my life now, my decisions to like walk away from certain friends, or not necessarily walk away, but just kind of keep a distance. And so it's just interesting to see that my timeline of when I was a child kind of come back around. It's like it's like coming back down the roller coaster here, and it's like, and so now I've been asking myself, like, where is this leading into? You know, like, am I gonna make friends with somebody I used to be friends with again? But then this correlates to you and I, because we grew up when we were young, like fucking baby. I think it was in diapers, you know, like. And so it's interesting to see that we're like, it's full circle back around.
Yes.
So you wonder who's going to pop in. I'm wondering who's going to pop into my life next.
We love that childhood healing. We love that shadow work.
It's just here I am shitting on my friends again. What I realize with my friends is they are very, I guess they come from a very generic blue collared family, just like we did. And I don't see anybody else working on themselves mentally. Not through success or through getting a better job to get more money, but like working on their happiness and sitting down and writing in a notebook or writing on your whiteboards up there, you know, like really focusing down on that.
Yeah.
And not just little bits of energy, like here and there, like, oh, I gotta go work out today. I'm talking like honest, dive deep into your brain. I spent thousands of dollars in a leadership program, and I have people who've never done that and who are trying to be leaders tell me what to do. And that's over the past couple of years, that's all shifted into what my life is now.
Yeah. So one of the things I've noticed is because of that, like the people that we're surrounded by, that we grew up with, that are not necessarily actively looking to do this kind of work, they're defeated. And they were never taught how, and they were never taught the value of this work. And I was talking to somebody recently who was like, that's why we were born into these families. We are here to lead them.
The bridge, which we
Yes.
talked about on the last podcast. We talked about how we essentially, we have very similar, Love and I have very similar, I guess, a mindset, if you want to call it that we, so my grandmother said to me that I'm in a card that she gave me for my birthday, that I'm a bridge to love. So essentially, and I interpret that as I am a loving person and I treat people with respect and how I want to be treated. And I'm just always willing to just give help. Like these rappers, I'm recording for free. I need to be making money, but I choose my creative ventures and something that's going to be so much better in the future because that's a sacrifice I'm making.
But I would also say that you are working to embody what true love is, which is balance.
Yeah.
And giving that love to yourself so that you have it to give to others. I think a lot of people that like I knew growing up, they love hard, but they never learned to love themselves. And everybody knows that they're supposed to love themselves, but none of us were taught how. Like functionally taught the steps to make it happen. And there are a lot of like very science-based biological things. I know the whole love yourself thing can seem very like ethereal and like a little woo-woo, and a lot of people don't like to connect it with science because it's so emotional. But the truth is that science and emotions and spirituality and intellect, they are two sides of the same coin. But we've forgotten that.
Right. And I mean, it's hard. What I noticed too is there are very small groups of people who are making that change. And I mean, what are we, so like, you know, I went and did a leadership program and I learned about communication and I learned about just so many different things about my life and how I live, that we all live in a constant story and we cycle through that story over and over and over again until you distinguish what's really happening to let go essentially of all of that. You know, I want to, it's hard to convince people to be that. It's hard to convince people to be happy, to you know, show them, because everybody has their own motive, everybody has their own intent, and everybody's selfish.
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Right, and that's when it's funny because that's when I really started diving into my creative adventures. Is when I started to think that way, like, all right, you know, I just got to keep doing me then here, and like, I've gotten so much farther. And I was telling Love before this that I finally have a beat that is now showing up on people's recommended pages on YouTube, which is just that's a big win. It's not a money win, but like that's a really big win because over the past 5 days, it's up. It just hit, I think, 400 views today. If I look at it now, it's probably at 400, which is huge for a beat that I put out that I made from nothing. And it's funny, when I was recording today, we were talking about, you know, I was just going through some old beats because we had no idea. We sat down here. I didn't know what we were going to talk about. But, like, those are the best conversations. Those are the best moments. And we sat down. I was going through some old beats, and I'm like, man, I really thought releasing these were bad. But, like, I listened to them today, and they were good. I'm like, wow, these are older, but, like, they're still good. And so it's interesting to it's nice to finally see some work pay off. And unfortunately, with YouTube and just social media, it's a very slow climb up. And when people get that success, everybody thinks it's overnight, but it's not.
No.
It's just a very slow roller coaster. So, yeah, I don't know. I've just been in a crazy headspace lately, and keeping myself. That's what I wanted to talk about. I think the most important thing I want to talk about to highlight this episode is, what's your version of you just stubbed your toe. You're mad about that. You walk into the kitchen, you drop a pot of coffee, all the coffee beans are everywhere. You're just things are spiraling down, and obviously it's very hard in that moment to switch. But what's your specific? I guess what do you run through in your mind to pull yourself off the ledge? Because that's what I just did that recently, and it changed me.
So I'm gonna circle around just for a second. I was watching a TikTok recently, and they were talking about triggers, and that's basically what that is. It's triggering a response in your nervous system that has you going haywire and shoved directly into your basically
Medulla oblongata. I think it's somewhere over there. I remember my dad saying that. Your medulla oblongata. I think he's like a basketball player or something. Is he? Or is it your neck or?
I have no idea. I don't remember right now. I'm blanking.
Yeah, I think it's I totally just screwed up the flow there. Medulla oblongata.
Okay. Anyway. Triggers. And so this girl, she was talking about an experience that she was having where she was finally getting back into a relationship after having done years of work on herself. And, she felt like she was in a really good, stable place. And she got into this relationship and realized that, her triggers were getting dug up. And side note, we can't do the work unless we're having the experiences. Yes, there's a time for the hermit phase where you're sitting and doing work on yourself, but you can't do relational healing.
Yeah.
If you're not experiencing it to notice where the triggers are. If you're not getting triggered, you can't work on them.
Right.
Now, she was really frustrated with herself because she kept getting triggered over and over again, and she had enough awareness to recognize that she was getting triggered, but she was really down on herself because she was like, I've done all this work and I'm still getting triggered. And she finally went in and diagrammed it and realized over time that she was actually moving that point of awareness up in the timeline over months.
Quicker, so she can kind of snap out of it quicker,
yes,
you're saying.
Until one day she was in a conversation in this relationship and she could see where it was going. No way. And she noticed where the trigger was coming. And she stopped the conversation and she said, hey, I need to go regulate myself because if we keep going down this road, I'm going to get triggered and I'm going to be reactive. And I don't want to do that because I care about you. Now, her relationship was healthy enough and aware enough to allow for that space and to understand that. And that's when she realized that she had made the progress that she just couldn't see. So sometimes you're going down this road and you feel like you're not making progress. You are. As long as you are still doing the work, you're making progress. You're not meant to fix it all in one day. No one can give you the answers. It's not a magic pill. You just got to keep doing it. It's a journey for a reason. And it's really amazing because I have really started to notice this in the last month or two, specifically with my familial relationships. And it's been amazing. Now I'm going to get to experience this all over again the next time I enter a romantic relationship, and that's going to be a shit show, and I'm super excited for that. But I know it's coming, and I know how to deal with it. So find your things. And there's a lot of science behind like what really works for your brain and your biology. There's tons of techniques to make those things work for you. And a lot of people recognize them. So deep breathing, meditation, but these things have very specific timing. If you're in a depressive state, meditation will send you into rumination, which will drive you deeper into it. So using these tools wisely is really important, and really keeping track of yourself and noticing yourself. You have to be the scientist of your own life. Yeah. You really do. And apply the scientific method the best way you know how.
And I think the easiest way to say like, oh, well, how do I be a science to my own life? It's just being aware of what you're feeling. You know what's funny is I have dreams now. Like we all have dreams, but like I used to be like, man, what was that dream I had? I can't remember. And of course you can't remember dreams. It's a thing. But I've been telling myself, how do what did I feel like when that dream was happening? Like I had a dream last night, and it wasn't a bad dream, but like it wasn't a great dream. But like I remember feeling like, everything's all right. Yeah, cool. We're cool. Yeah, everything's going to be all right. Like that's, and it's funny how when I start to recognize that, my life starts to switch into everything's going to be all right. So I guess maybe to bullet point it specific to you, what are your trigger? When you get triggered, what are you telling yourself in your mind to pull yourself off the ledge or calm yourself down or bring you back to center, find your balance again?
Yeah, so the first thing I do is I just remove myself from the situation.
So that I
can be alone and be in my own energetic field. So that I can separate what is mine and what is not mine. So I can take responsibility for my actions and the way I feel. So that I can choose differently. So that I can choose love. That's like the main thing.
Okay, so you walk away from the situation, say...
I give myself space.
Right, you give yourself space, say say you're at home and you come across something like that, and like, all right, I just need to go to my room. I need to go to my room, step myself out, close the door. What do you do once you're in your room?
Now that depends on what time it is in my cycle. That depends on what my diet is like. There's a lot of different things that I can do.
I mean, just to keep it short, what's usually the thing that you go to the most?
Well, honestly, most of the time, practically, you're not going to have the time and space to sit and process right then and there. It's just not practical for the society that we live in, because we're so productivity, results driven. Now, you can very practically use compartmentalization to put a pin in it. But you have to really tell your brain, I recognize this. I honor that it is there. I honor that this is how I feel, and we will address this. We will deal with this. And sometimes that's me writing it down, just like that, as if I were to say it. Sometimes it's me saying it out loud. And I've learned some very key phrases that are really important for this. I literally tell myself, okay, this triggered me. This is how I felt. This is important. I am worthy of feeling this way, and I will address this. I will sort this out, not right this second. And then I will usually arbitrarily try to pick a time. And even if that time doesn't work for me, I can then at that time schedule it in very specifically. Okay. What that does is it tells your nervous system, hey, we're not ignoring this. We're not suppressing this. We're tabling it. And as long as you honor the like getting back to it within the time frame that you actually set, you and your brain and your nervous system will learn to trust yourself. And that is honestly probably the biggest journey in really learning to feel good and be happy. So many of us were taught not to trust ourselves and not to trust our feelings.
And I don't think intentionally. I just think that comes from our flight or fight, our survival instinct, which we've always, the Neanderthal has always been in control of that. Yeah, I just wanted to add that little part. So I guess to sum it up, it's so funny, like we do the same thing, but in our own little ways. I've learned over, I guess, my years of growing up now that I'm 27, going to be 28 in another month, I've learned that, like, always go back to what works. And if it works, even a little bit, just continue to do it.
Yes.
And as I did that over the years, and it comes back to, like, all right, my anxiety, this happened to me this morning. I'm like, I woke up, I'm in a bad spot right now when it comes to sleeping, where I'm like waking up in the morning, but I'm like going back to sleep, and then I wake up again. So I screw up I go like into that REM, or I screw up my sleep schedule there. But for the most part, I because of my practices and the things I do for my mind, I get myself out of it fairly quick. So this morning, I'll tell you what I did. So I just was feeling, again, the finances is weighing over my head, and at the end of the day, I know it's going to be all right. And I know it's going to be all right because I hear other people's stories, other people's success stories. Successful stories inspire me and keep my mind straight. But I always remember those, like, certain people that I've listened to will say those things like, I used to be broke. I used to have a lot of debt. But you know what? Here I am today, and I'm super successful, and it was all worth it. And, like, so that drives me. That thought is always in my head.
So, a little side note. I agree, but I think to some degree that is very external, and I think that is a piece of it. But I think the other piece of it, at least I know for me, is that I have started on this path, and I'm doing the things that I know by experience have worked for me. Right. And because they work, I know, like, I can trust that they will continue to work, which also allows me the room to find new things that work even better. So
from there, like this morning, I went from just feeling like a total negative Nancy, just feeling like a shitball, to then just, I snap myself out of it. And it's the same practice every single time I go through it. So there's a guy named Wayne Dyer. I think I talked to you. I think the first time we sat down on the podcast.
Link down below.
About it. I might have mentioned it, but he's a motivational guy, or he's not necessarily. He studied the Tao. Tao. It still blows me away that that's how you say Tao. Wayne Dyer. He studied the whole entire Tao, and he's essentially traveled around the globe, and just, I guess, became I wouldn't consider him a motivational speaker. I would consider him more of just a speaker who, like a Tony Robbins, but not as intense. Tony Robbins is very intense.
Emotional intelligence educator.
Yeah, that works. Emotional intelligence educator. And so I've listened. He's really clicked in my mind. He's really made me, like, his practices has always gotten me focused. And one of the main focuses that I got from him is the meditation. He has this meditation to where you go into your mind, or you tell yourself, I am. Wait, what is it? I am. On YouTube, it's called I Am Wayne Dyer. And he has this whole 7-minute meditation that he runs through, and then it's another 40 minutes of just the music that he's sat down with scientists to figure out what the best sound is for humans and whatever. So
Neurolinguistic programming.
that's exactly what I said. You didn't hear me? So that's one of the things I'll do. I'll run in my head. I am great. I am feeling better today. I am going to get through this. Oh, I remember it now.
Or
I
the woo-woo
am.
affirmations.
Yeah, essentially they're affirmations, but I am what I am. That's really how he says the statement. I am what I am. Happy. I am what like, and, I start small, and then progressively as I continue it after about 10 adjectives, it turns into bigger sentences. I am that I am happy that I have a thriving household, and I'm surrounded by my friends and my family who make me happy. So that's what it turns into, and that's a 1 minute exercise. And then if I'll do that, I'll run that. And like I'll notice, I don't notice the switch as it's happening, but I'll notice like my mind will get distracted by something. Like say I start driving or whatever, and my mind will get distracted, and then about 10-15 minutes later, I'm in a happier mood. And then when I do go through that, I add a smile. I make sure I intentionally smile every single day with my teeth. You can see it, but I'm smiling right now. Like I do an intentional smile, and essentially I'm working on my happiness, physically working on my happiness. And I think that is the most powerful tool, is intentionally telling yourself to smile. And it's actually nerve-wracking to stare at yourself in the mirror for 30 seconds and smile.
Yes.
It's it's a very moving exercise if you do it for the first 5 times, let's say, because you're always going to get something different from it.
So I love this. In this process, what you're doing is you're creating data points in your brain. And because your brain runs on pattern recognition, and because you're neurodivergent, you're even more prone to using subconscious pattern recognition. You're creating data points in your brain to look for the things that you're saying. And the more that you do it, the more that your brain looks for it and looks for evidence of it. Your brain is always trying to prove your inner monologue.
Right, that survival instinct. Mm-hmm. That's the little voice in your head. As the leadership program I took, they said, all right, there's an exercise there. They said, all right, everybody quiet. And then they'll pause for like 30 seconds, and then thwill say, you hear that? Everybody will be like, what? There's very naive people sometimes. They're like, what are you talking about? That little voice that you guys heard in that silence of your little voice running, looking at people, judging people, that little voice runs your life. And that is the goal. That was the goal in that program, was to essentially submit that freaking voice and change that voice to think differently. And that's like a little exercise that helps.
So on the woo-woo side, this is what's known as shadow work.
Okay.
This is mirror gazing, affirmations, and mirror spelling, essentially.
Spelling?
Yeah. So
wait, when you say woo-woo, you talking like I'm going to pop some acid and go on a woo-woo trip?
No, woo-woo spirituality. So this dives into like your esoteric, your like cult practices. These are practices that have been used for millennia. But it's really cool because now we're starting to see the research that really aligns these practices and explains why they work. Because they work. They really do. For instance, right now I have a set of affirmations written on my mirror. And I look into my eyes every day and I read this set of affirmations. And the ones that I have right now are specific for my sacral chakra. And you can look these up. They're really amazing. Like when you get really specific about like learning where you have, blockage in your chakra systems and where you have trauma stored in your body, you can get really specific with these practices and use them like a scalpel.
Yeah. And it's funny. Like it's like you're like the more the deeper thinking aspect of it, and I'm like the layman's terms for let's say calming down our triggers. That's what we call it. That's what we call this episode. So we have to start wrapping up because I'm on a time schedule today and I gotta get out of here soon. So I just feel like the flow of this just started picking up about 10 minutes ago. But that's okay because you know what? I before we came in here, I talked about how my schedule. When you schedule yourself to do things, you obviously are forced to work and get the things done.
And you're more likely to show up for them.
And I guess I would say for the past month, my schedule has been, it's been the same schedule, but like, you know, in the past times, the Mondays I've come here, it's been very, like I'm here for whatever. Yeah. Freelance. Like, all right, what are we going to talk? The one podcast I think was 2 hours long.
Yeah.
Which I think there were a lot of good points said, but I think this podcast sums up everything we've talked about and we've delved into thus far. Because I mean, this is it's nice to be able to sit down with you and talk like this because we've always been at like the same level. We grew up together, you know, we were little kids, we didn't know shit, but like now that we're older, we're very spiritual. And I think that's what this podcast represents for me, is that I can talk freely about these things that I want to talk to about, like with my girlfriend. She doesn't want to hear these things all the time, but like it's nice that I have something to bounce off that. So
yeah, having people that you can connect with on this level consistently is incredibly helpful. You get a sounding board, you get space and a container held to support it, and you know, you don't get looked at like you're crazy, because let's be honest, some people hear this shit and they're like, are you taking your meds?
Right, and now we're both being looked at like crazy.
Birds of a feather.
It's funny, I was thinking, I'm like the guy who, like, I'll go have wine night with the girls, and I'll have the best time of my life. And you know what? I've learned really from your dad that it's okay to be that person and be more of that person. Show more of your what do they call that for guys? The not your feminine side, but your
balanced divine masculinity.
That's what it is. All the other stuff I don't know what that was, but the masculinity, that's the word I was looking for. There's a football player who has a podcast about masculinity, and it's just him opening up about, you know, his life and talking like this. So any final points that you want to get across here today on this episode of Spotlight?
I had a fucking blast today, and
I think
I'm excited moving forward, and I'm really excited for all of you to take this journey with us.
I feel like we need to do more. Like, I mean, it sucks. I was saying this earlier, that it sucks when I want to put all my energy into my music, and that's it. But I can't, because of my finances and because of other things in my life. I need to go and make money. I need to make ends meet, essentially.
Yeah, but you know what?
But that's life. And we
are here, and we get to put any energy into this.
All of it. All of the energy we have into this, really. So
and eventually, I think it's a given. There will come a day where we're getting to put all of our energy into the things we really want 100% of the time, and nothing else.
And that's when the real work starts. So let's end it there, because I wanted to tell you before this. I said I want to talk to you about my dream, and that correlates with this. Is that this is my dream of this podcast, of my music, of just being the own entrepreneur of my life. Being being my own boss and being on my own time and making other people a hell of a lot successful.
True freedom. Doing what you want, when you want, how you want.
In a business way, it's financial freedom. But my dream is to be able, and to put it in short term, I want to be able to create this life, a successful life, have a successful podcast, have a successful music business, have a bunch of good features with a really amazing artist, whatever the case is. Maybe a motivational speaker, you know, being on my own time, like you're saying. But to be able to employ the people in my life, to get my girlfriend out of the work that she's doing, because she's a robot, and I love her so much, but it's just, she's in the financial world. And you know, so it's just a lot of the same repetitive things. And so, like, you know, employ you, and well, essentially you're employing yourself too, because you're part of this. But you know what I'm saying? You know, like, just bring the closest people we can trust and love into our lives, and give them this freedom.
I think what you're trying to say is we've tasted freedom, and freedom is addicting in the best possible way. and it's contagious. And I really hope you all catch it.
Yes, because and that's all it takes. And I think the true freedom is a mind shift. No matter what your position you're in your life, you have no money, you're unhealthy, you don't know what to do with your life, you're upset all the time, you're depressed. The easiest thing, the only thing to do that it's never talked about is your mind shift.
Yeah, freedom is empowerment.
You shift your mind. Yeah,
and you have the power.
That's it.
You just have to choose it.
You have the power.
And we understand that it's not always easy to take those steps to choose it for yourself, but there is a method to the madness, and we're going to try and share that with you as best we can as we stumble along the way ourselves.
Damn straight. You have the power. I love you, love.
Love you too.
All right. See you guys in the next episode. Bye.